Every now and then we run across a new manufacturer that gets us really excited, and that's what we have for you today. Welcome to Equipped to Endure. I am Rusty. We focus on all things self-reliance and emergency preparation, and we do this through gear reviews and training videos. So if this is a particular subject that you want to up your game in, go ahead and hit the subscribe button as well as jingle that little notification bell so you can be updated when we release new videos. And in case you need more incentive, we do a lot of gear giveaways. And we have some of that going on today. So be sure again to like us on Facebook and Instagram as well so that you can be aware of these particular giveaways that we're doing. So as I was cruising through the big gear show at Park City, I ran across a little booth with a group I'd never heard before called Giant Mouse Knives. Now the more I looked into them, they're not so tiny anymore. They're growing fast, and I can understand why. They put out some really cool stuff, and I'm not just saying that. I'm excited. As a matter of fact, when Chris took some of the knives to take shots of, I was kind of jonesed that I wanted to have one of these particular models back. I'm really excited about these. So with that, let me show you a little bit of their lineup. They have small fixed blades, they have other fixed blades. This is a really cool skeletonized no scale version that you can EDC with. They've got some more traditional type looks. I believe this one's called the Sonoma model, which it is. Then we've got the Clyde model. This is in brass. This has a really cool trailing point blade there with a lot of edge on it. Now one that really caught my eye was the Biblio. This is one of their very popular models. Really neat. Man, I don't think you could ask for much more in an EDC knife than what a couple of these have to offer. And then this is their Riv model, which is like a mini Biblio. But man, I didn't think I'd like this one this much, but this has really jumped out at me. And then we got a special little something that we're going to set on the side for now. So this model that we're starting with is called the GMF1, and the use for this is they were intending to design something that was a small fixed blade but also had great ergonomics. So they actually rounded off the edges on this so it doesn't feel like it's cutting onto you or cutting into you. I've had a couple little skeletonized knives like this that weren't rounded off like that, and it's not that comfortable. You don't really want to grab it because the sharp edges of that skeletonized handle kind of dig into you a little bit. But this is really comfortable. This is kind of cool. They even put a little jimping right there in that choil where your finger rests, and it just feels solid. For this, I mean, you may feel like on some of your skeletonized knives, you don't know quite how to use it, but this really feels like you can grab it even with how small it is. Now, a lot of their blades that I particularly like have this, they're kind of like a hybrid of a sheep's foot and almost a Warncliffe because they have that aggressive drop point. And for EDC uses, I've actually grown to really appreciate this. I mean, typically, what are you pulling your knife out for? To cut open boxes, maybe letters, that kind of thing. And this presents the tip lower so you can get to that tip more easily, and it's really grown on me, that kind of approach. Back on this knife. So overall, we have a blade length of 2.6 inches. Let me make sure you can see that in the overhead. You can. And then the blade thickness is 4 mil or 0.157 inches to us that use that scale. The handle length is 2.8 inches and the overall is 5.4 inches on the GMF1. So the weight, this is something that's really appealing. 1.9 ounces. So even though it's light, it still feels like you're holding some substance when you have this. And again, it comes with this really well done little leather pocket sheath for you. It also has the belt loop in case you want to throw it on there. I'm not really much for carrying a fixed blade everyday carry knife, but this would fit the bill if that's what you wanted to do. One more quick point on this particular knife is the steel they use is an N690 Cobalt high performance steel. Again, that should hold up to pretty much anything you want to throw at it. The GMF1, the price point on this guy is $135, and that includes the sheath. This is the Sonoma model, titanium PVD, so it's a PVD coating on it, and the scales are the titanium piece there. Now let me get into the specifics of this particular model. So you can see the blade length is 3.4 inches, again a really good length for an EDC knife. It has a blade thickness of 0.138 inches, and the handle length is 4.5 inches. So that gives it an overall length of about 8 inches. Now this titanium lightens it up a little bit, and the total weight on this Sonoma model is 3.7 inches. The actual pivot mechanism is ball bearings. You can see that it has the flipper opening, and it is kind of a neat low profile flipper that it just feels natural to kind of pull it back towards you and flip that thing open. Really nice knife. So those are some of the specifics. You can see the clip there. Now let's go ahead and get into those 3 standard criteria that we like to use with folding knife, particularly in the EDC department. So the first thing that we're going to start off with is the ease of deployment. Again, this is intended to be an EDC knife. You want to be able to get it out quickly for whatever you're doing. So let's take a look at that. You can sit it either obviously in your back pocket, in your side pocket, in your fifth pocket. Well, let's check if it fits in there real quick. Now it does not fit that deep. It's not that concealed, but that's not part of the design. So if you like that, great. If not, I mean, you can kind of grab it. Maybe you like that a little bit more. It doesn't fit great in the fifth pocket. There's still a little space, so it doesn't slide all the way down in there if that's like how you like to carry it. But as far as deploying it, simply grab it, get it out, and then you can grab the flipper and push it. Now I will say for this particular model, it is a little bit, it's a little thin of a model, so it doesn't quite have the beefy indexing that allows you to quickly purchase it and find it. And then, now it's not really a knock, but it is a little bit more of an elegant design that doesn't have kind of those chunky choils that you know exactly where to grab. Really, really smooth deployment. So impressed with that ball point, or so impressed with the ball bearing mechanism there. It flies right open, snaps firmly into place. I've been really impressed. We're going to get into this in a moment, but really impressed with the tolerances. But again, from a deployment standpoint, getting it out, indexing it, and then pulling that flipper, I'm going to give that a 4 for ease of deployment. Now moving into safety, this is a full frame lock, so that blade is held firmly in place, which I do appreciate. But you do have to move your finger across the line of the blade, so if you're being sloppy or not careful at some point, you may catch yourself on that. Again, there's not a lot of knives that I'll give a 5 for safety, maybe some assisted openings or things like the axis lock on the Benchmade knives, but again, really, really strong. It doesn't feel like it's going to close on you while you're using it. It's just really when you're putting it away. Now from the craftsmanship, for a production line of knives, there, with maybe a few exceptions, I haven't run across a lot that feel across the board as we go through these that feel so well put together. The tolerances, the grinds, the angles, the lines, the touch, it just feels great. So for a production model, and again, this model, this titanium version is $265. I think they do have some that come down a little bit based on the materials, but in that range, this is exceptional marksmanship, in my opinion. Marksmanship. This is exceptional craftsmanship in that price range, in my opinion. I would have to give, for what this is, I would go 5 pretty much across the board on all of the Giant Mouse knives for the level of craftsmanship at the price point. Really impressed with this brand. You should check them out. So let's move on to the next model. This was the Sonoma. Let's take a look at the Clyde. Now this is a brass handled model that has a thumb stud, which is how you deploy it. Now a little bit more maybe traditional of a look. Some people are really fans of the brass scales on there. Now you can see the liner lock on there. This is not a frame lock, this is a liner lock, but it has a very smooth feel to it and very solid. It gives you tension and spring without feeling obnoxious. Again, it really well put together there. So it is a liner lock, and you can see that blade really has that exaggerated trailing point sweep on it. This is really, really slicey. And so let's look at some more specifics on this. All right, as far as the steel on the Clyde, they used an M390 with a satin finish. Obviously the scales are brass. The liner is an AISI 420 hardened bead blasted little piece of steel in there. Has a wire clip, and the pivot mechanism is bronze washers. And like I already pointed out, the locking mechanism is that liner lock. Now the blade itself is 3 inches long, as you can see. And then the thickness is 0.118 inches. That's a 3 mil thickness on the blade. The handle length is 3.94 inches. And the overall is just a smidge shorter than 7 inches. It comes in at 6.97 inches to be exact. And the weight is 4.2 ounces. Now, I don't like heavier knives typically when we're talking about EDC knives, but something about this brass, it just feels solid and good, and it doesn't feel quite that heavy for being brass. So I think it's a really, really well-designed package here. So let's get into those three statistics we look at, or sorry, those three metrics that we use to score these by. So as far as ease of deployment, with that wire clip, it can sit a little bit deeper, whether you go in your back pocket, whether you go in the fifth pocket, whether you're a service person that puts in the shirt or whatever, it sits nice in there. Easy to grab with that clip. It goes right, it falls where it should, and then you can deploy it with that thumb stud. Now, I prefer a flipper or an assisted opening. I do like thumb studs if it can be assisted on this. Now, this isn't a knock, but for this particular model, I'd say ease of deployment, I'd put it at about a 3. And again, that's not bad. That's just, there are some things that are a little quicker to deploy if that's what's important to you. So from a safety standpoint, when you open this guy up, you can hear that solid confirmation, that audio feedback that liner lock has really jumped behind the blade and locked it open. I do not, that is so tight as far as the tolerances there, no wiggle. I feel like that's not going anywhere, that's not going to close on my fingers. And again, because it is a liner lock, you do have to put your finger in the way when you're closing it. As long as you're careful, it shouldn't be a problem, but that's why I would go for safety on it. But it feels like a very well-built tight package, which moves us on to the final metric which we're going to use for this, and that is craftsmanship. Again, the blade looks great, the consistency of the grinds, the perfect sweep for the profile of the blade, how tight everything is and how well it fits together for production knife. I'm going a 5 on this. Okay, next we're going to take a look at the Biblio model. Now, the standard setup with micarta scales and everything goes for $185, but I was able to get my hands on one of the special edition titanium ones before they were sold out. I think this one went for $225, but regardless, it's going to be a lot of the same metrics, so I'm going to walk you through that. Now, the overall profile, you can see that it kind of has that interesting blade shape, kind of the Wharncliffe, a little bit of the sheep's foot kind of look there. And again, I've really grown to appreciate that for EDC uses. But man, oh man, do I really love this knife. So let's get into the specifics of the Biblio. So again, intended to be a regular use EDC knife that is more of a full-size EDC that would fill your hand and kind of meet that 3-inch blade range. And let's look at the actual specific metrics here. So the blade length is 2.875 inches and the blade thickness is 0.118 inches. Again, that's 3 mil for thickness. The handle length is right at 4 inches and the overall length then comes out to 6.875 inches. Now the weight on the standard model is 4 ounces, and I think this one came in right around that. Again, this was the titanium version. Now the steel on the knives is the Bowler M390 microclean. Really, really nice blade material for an EDC knife. And they do these wire clips, which are easy to, take in, take out, all that kind of stuff. On their premium line, this is more of the custom runs. They do some different clips, but on their Ace line, which is what most of these are, they have that wire clip in them. So I'm a big fan of this. Let's go ahead and judge that real quick. So starting with the ease of deployment, let's go ahead and stick that in the pocket. So if you're running it in your back pocket or elsewhere, you can see how it sits. I actually like to keep mine in my fifth pocket if I can, and this slides perfectly down in there. As you deploy it, you can grab right there, pulls out nice and easy, and then with the flipper, easy to deploy and purchase it. It has the choils. I don't like those dramatic choils on field knives if we're talking about bushcraft or something like that, but for an EDC knife, where I'm not out trying to carve my shelter, totally fine with the choils. In fact, I like it if you need to grip it and do some work that way. So for a ease of deployment, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4. Again, it's not assisted, which is the only thing I'd really push it up to a 5, but really well put together. From a safety standpoint, it does have the liner lock. It is really stout, and I don't feel like that blade is closing on me, so I can't really knock it there. But again, whenever I'm having to move my fingers in front of the path of the blade, that's just one more chance to maybe get hurt or cut. So I'm going to go 4 on that because I don't feel like that blade is budging when it's open. And then from a quality craftsmanship standpoint, it's just hard to describe until you get one of these knives in your hands how tight everything feels and how good it looks. It's hard to tell you just how good that is with these giant mouse knives. Now the only thing, as I've scanned over this and looked at, the only thing that I could even slightly knock this particular model on is right just as far as consistency of grind, and I'm really splitting hairs here, but there's just a very slight discrepancy in the grind, the width of the grinds from the tip to the base. But again, that's, most people would not notice that. And again, for all the other components, I'm still going to put this at a 5 as far as craftsmanship. Really impressed with this guy. Okay, next let's move on and talk about the Riv. Now when I first saw this, I wasn't that impressed. I thought, yeah, that's kind of a dinky little thing. I wouldn't really like it. But the funny part is, once I started using this, this became my go-to. In fact, I mentioned earlier, I missed this thing when it was gone getting shots done, and I wanted it back in my hands. I am a big fan of this. Now the use case for this Riv is it's a compact, lightweight EDC knife that's easy to conceal, and when you want to pull it out, it does exactly what you need it to. Big fan. So let's get into the specifics of the Riv. Now the Riv model runs for $185 for the standard micarta setup, and we've got something a little special to show you that goes a little north of that, but we're going to get there. So let's go ahead and move into the specifics of the Riv. So blade length is 2.44 inches, and then the actual thickness of the steel is 0.118 inches. Again, that's 3 mil. The handle length is 3.375 inches, and the overall length is 5.75 inches with a really nice lightweight of 2.4 ounces. Okay, those are the specifics on it. If I didn't get into it, this is actually an L-Max blade, which again is fantastic for a stainless that you can use with great edge retention and really, really strong. It's considered a super steel. And then this particular model has the green canvas micarta, which again, I didn't think I'd really love, but I do, with the metal on the other side and the wire clip. Now, the Riv is a full frame lock. It is not just a liner lock. So when that thing snaps in, you feel that get behind the blade, and that is not opening. Really, really nice function there. As far as the ease of deployment, so compact, easy to put obviously in the back pocket and then in the fifth pocket, which is where I like to run with this. It's so short that it does not impede your flexibility if you're sitting down or getting in your car to deploy it. Really nice flipper, great action. It just wants to snap open. It's so snappy, it almost feels like it's assisted, which I love. Really, really cool knife there. So from an ease of deployment standpoint, you know, I want to go 5 on it, but it's not assisted. I'm going to go 4 on it, but again, still really like the knife. From a safety standpoint, snaps open, the frame gets right behind it, it holds that baby closed. It's not closing on you or holds it open. You've already heard me say it many, many times before, but with a frame lock or a liner lock, anything that you have to move your fingers across in front of the blade closed, that does give it a little bit of a knock from a safety standpoint for me, but that's just the design of the knife. I'll go 4 for safety. As far as materials and craftsmanship, this is just exceptional for production knife. Their jimping feels smooth. The spine of the knife feels smooth. The angles and the grinds are so consistent across it. They really thought through this knife from a usability standpoint. Everything looks the way that it should. I give it a 5 from a craftsmanship standpoint. Now, oh baby, this is the giveaway. This is exciting. This is the Riv in black titanium. This is going in our Christmas giveaway. So when you win, this is going in the EDC kit. You're going to see it go into the Addicts pack, which we will show later. This is the Riv in one of their special configurations. This is the full Blackout titanium with the gold liners. I'm kind of jealous of whoever wins this. This is such a slick knife. Again, this is the Riv that we just went over, but in that Blackout lining. So congratulations in advance to whoever wins this guy. This is the $225 version or dollar version. Such a superb little knife. You're going to feel very fortunate when you have it in your hands. So hope you enjoyed that. We're really impressed with Giant Mouse knives. Go check them out yourselves. We're going to put a special link down at the bottom. Now they have MAP pricing, so we can't offer you a discount for E2E, but what we can do is, you know, at least get a little bit of credit for sending them or sending you their way. Go check them out. You won't be disappointed if you go ahead and pick up one of their models. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Again, we're doing a giveaway now, and some of these other models we're actually going to give away later, so keep your eyes open For those giveaways, make sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Facebook where we announce the ways and the rules to win in these different giveaways. And until next time, in Omnia Paratus.